From Martine Studios in New York, your trending topic TV show. This is Talking Heads with Nizam.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Talking Heads. I'm your host, Nizam, and my distinguished panel I have today. We have Dan, Julie, and Chris. They all came out to check out the show today. So let's get right into it. You know my favorite segment. What are you watching? Dan, let's start with you. What are you watching, man?
The Leftovers. I'm watching The Leftovers on a show on HBO. I believe.
HBO, yeah.
And I'm watching Ray Donovan right now.
Oh, Ray Donovan, that's a good one. I'm kind of into Leftovers. I watched like the first episode, and I don't know.
No?
I don't know.
I think it's one of the most original plots that we've had out there. I mean, most of the things that you see now is, the vampires and aliens right now. So I just thought that this was a refreshing topic, and it's been pretty captivating so far.
Aliens, we're gonna get to that later. Julie, what are you watching?
I watch a variety of stuff. I like the cop shows, which I know is one of our topics today, called Rookie Blue. So I'm happy that's back, a nice summertime show. I'm watching Mistresses. It's a women's show. I think it's on ABC or I don't know. That's got a lot of steamy stuff going on with women having, cheating and leaving their husbands and all that girly stuff. And, of course, trashy TV. Bravo. I know that someone else here likes to watch it. They're always posting on Facebook. I don't know why you just get sucked in. It's like hour after hour. Like, oh, gotta watch the next one. Gotta watch the next one.
Real Housewives.
So I love them. I love them. Just New York. They're the only ones that I don't watch.
Yeah, okay.
Biased to the East Coast.
Yeah.
What about
No,
you?
Jersey's good.
Chris,
People like Jersey too.
Chris, what are you watching?
I've gotten into The Strain. I used to read,
Really?
there's a trilogy by Chuck Hogan and Guillermo del Toro. And he wrote it, and I was like, this would be a great movie, but I don't know how they're going to do it. So I got into The Strain, and it's not like your normal Twilight kind of crappy movie. This is actually like a good TV series, has a nice spin of horror on it as well. And I think it's going to be hot. I think it's going to be kind of like a Walking Dead with the vampires from 30 Days of Night.
That's cool. We had some guys talking about The Strain last week. I might have to check it out, man. I'm not really. I've tried to do the horror. I tried like Walking Dead is the closest suspense horror that I get into. I tried to do American Horror Story, and they're changing the setting and the time and the
Every season that
I'm like,
changes.
I need I gotta. Yeah,
I wanted to watch Leftovers, but I heard it's a little depressing, man.
I'm telling you, it's a show that would definitely grab you. And they're starting to get into the story a little bit more. It's like always compared to like the first 75 pages of a book.
Right.
So it's definitely going to start off slow for most people, but the for most part, the characters in there, the way everyone's set up, it's just awesome, honestly.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really, really a great show.
I might have to watch a few more episodes of that. I don't know. I have to check it out. But all right, so let's get into the show. Kind of sensitive topic today, but we're gonna talk about it. Eric Garner, the man that died after he was taken down by the New York City police. Lot of controversy around this right now. Was it police brutality? Did they get excessive? A lot of people are buzzing, still talking about this. Chris, let's start with you, man. How do you feel about just talking about the video? How do you feel about the video?
All right. I apologize to anybody if I offend them, but I did see the video, and when I first saw it, I was actually moved. My instinct was police brutality. They were too strong on him. The poor guy was just standing there, and I hate to say it, but it was kind of like what the TV was painted to me, and I totally believed it. Did some research because I like to be informed about things that I feel a little more passionate about. And I mean, when you watch it again, they're literally saying, you shouldn't resist the cops. And then once he says, what did he say? This stops here. That's inviting trouble, number one. Number two, it's New York. You don't invite trouble to the cops, and then they're already going to be intimidated because he's a big dude. Now, I do feel bad for like the family, and he had kids, and that's just a horrible situation. But I mean, I don't think, number one, the cops intended, obviously, to kill him, which is what happened. And then number two, how are they to know that he had some kind of, he had like a condition, I think, beforehand?
Right.
And then you talk about the chokehold. I mean, if he was really choking him that much, he would not have been able to say, I can't breathe. So definitely it was wrong, but I have to say, the cops, I think it was excessive somewhat, but I mean, I don't think it was out of the realm of what should have happened. I think we've seen a lot worse. I don't want to take up every whole time, but it bothered me.
Yeah.
Seen a lot worse. I don't think I mean, what happened to the EMS? Maybe you guys can answer this. EMS were there.
Right.
They should have known this.
There's
I
the-
think they're to blame.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that, Julie.
Well,
on the video, what do you think?
A couple of them got blamed, actually, but I guess we're going to get to that. So I watched it a couple of times. The police officers were kind of small, so I felt, I understood they were intimidated, but the police should have followed protocol. And that, in the research I did 20 years ago, chokehold was bad. So no matter what, if they followed whatever the protocol is and something happened, then I guess they're not as much to blame. But they didn't. They did something that was not allowed, and from what I understand, that cop's badge and gun were taken away, and he will be punished. I don't know to the severity, and I guess we'll find out over time what's going to happen. I feel like they felt threatened, but there were several of them, and just this one guy. And again, when it goes back to the choking, that shouldn't have happened. But he's talking. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Someone says if someone's like this and they're talking to you, they say don't help them. It's when they can't breathe and they can't talk to you. That's when you start to help someone. So the fact that protocol wasn't followed is the problem that I have with the way that the whole thing went down.
Dan, what about you?
My issue from the beginning, I mean, I can understand, your argument saying that someone can't talk when they're choked, but he wasn't speaking clearly. He was obviously his voice was being impaired while he was saying it. It wasn't like he was speaking as clearly as we are right now. So obviously there was some restraint on his neck. They didn't follow protocol. To say protocol, it's so general right now that anyone can be following protocol and anything they're doing. So for these cops to say we were following protocol, they weren't. I mean, this guy was being arrested for distribution of cigarettes. I mean, he was taking money out of the pockets of Philip Morris. I mean, a company that's killed so many people. And I'm not generalizing. I'm not sitting there saying that there's comparison to it, but he wasn't a hardened criminal. He has no past where it shows that he's been a violent man. All right, the officers that arrested him or who had the chokehold over him, they have incidences where there's been racial profiling on their badge, there's been harassment on their badge, and there's been humiliation on their badge, and they've all been sued. So
I know definitely for sure Daniel has the one who actually put the chokehold on.
Yes.
There's two police officers that got suspended. It was tough to find the other one's name, but Daniel Pataleo is the one that he had two lawsuits out there. And they settled out of court or whatever. But so definitely one has like a shady history or whatever. But I just want to read this real quick. So when it comes to police use of force, police enforce social order through the legitimized use of force. Use of force describes the amount of effort required by police to compel compliance by an unwilling subject. The levels or continuum of force police use include basic verbal and physical restraint, less lethal force, and lethal force. Police officers should use only the amount of force necessary to control an incident, effect an arrest, or protect themselves or others from death. And it goes on further from there. So I definitely agree with some of the things that you guys are saying there. The use of force, the necessary use of force, and I think that cops, they followed protocol up to a certain extent. They tried to talk them down. They obviously knew each other. There's all right, so Eric Garner has a past, 31 from the age of 16, and it's very difficult to find out what all these charges are, these alleged charges. The cop said he had 31 prior arrests, but from the age of 16 also. The guy was 43 years old. But that's my thing. He's 43 years old. The cops waited for backup. They had 4, 5, 6 guys.
At the end of the day, if he just went along and did not try to resist them, I think obviously it would have been a different outcome.
And my thing is with resistance too. That here's the thing. It ends today, he says. To me, that's a figure of speech. He's obviously been harassed by these people. He's a criminal. Criminals always make excuses. It was never them. They were never there. It wasn't me. And the cops, they tried to talk him down. They tried to talk him off the ledge. Hey, listen, you're a cigarette kingpin. We're taking you down because we have to do our job. He resisted arrest, which he shouldn't have. They took him down. I feel like, at the very least, this one cop just got excessive. One, he
with the head.
One, he jumped him from behind. But I feel like it ends today as a figure of speech. Everyone says things. I can't breathe. Okay, if someone's being choked or if someone's being asphyxiated, they can't talk. That is a figure of speech. If you've ever played a sport or if you've ever just been winded, guess what the first thing that comes out of your mouth is? I can't breathe.
You know how often they might hear that though?
Yeah, but that's fine. Again, this guy, I hate to keep saying his name. Daniel, this cop, stayed on top of him. There's a picture where, hey, they went down. He still got him in the chokehold.
on top of him.
Yeah, he got off of him, but then he decided to, with the other cops holding him down. I mean, there's a couple other hands in there on this picture. He gets off of him. The other cops come in and restrain this guy, and he stays on his head.
I mean, with a man that size, how likely is it for him to spring back up and
Not very.
take off?
And the chokehold itself was banned 20 years ago, so that isn't even a maneuver that cop should be allowed to do. So that is not okay in itself.
That right there, with a man with an arm behind his back, that man that size, you've already subdued him. He is done right now. The fact that it went from that to a knee on the head to the fact that they were all laying on his back at one point. I mean, the lungs themselves, you can't press your knee on someone's back
and that's what he's
and
saying.
expect your lungs to
he was
expand.
Severely asthmatic, which I mean,
which means nothing. To be honest with you,
but
his asthma problems has no relationship to this case.
It does
because
stress causes asthma.
But they're saying
That's all I know.
that his size plays in a matter. I mean, some of the cops that were on the scene were not in shape. So are we supposed to say that these cops need to be in some type of exercise regimen so that they can get in shape? Because you can't sit there and say that this man, he died because he was overweight. He died because
he died because of the stress of the situation.
I understand that, but the stress was only administered from the protocol or the lack of protocol that these cops used.
I think that's where Nizam was correct in saying that it went way too far.
So it's I feel like they followed a line of protocol to a certain extent, and then this one bad apple, if you will, decided to take the law into his own hands. And my thing is this guy's he's 43 years old. He's a big dude. He's 350, 400. He's 43 years old, and he's an older man. If it was just two of these smaller, if it was the chokehold cop and one other smaller guy, and this guy's resisting arrest, and they have to take him down, and a chokehold goes down, and he dies. That's a very, very unfortunate situation. These cops are doing their job. They have to do what they have to do. When you got 4 or 5 cops, you get them down, and he's saying, I can't breathe. You know what? All right, he's not being choked out. He's not being asphyxiated.
Like the guy on his head could have. I mean, he wasn't fighting right once he was down there. What you said. That's what bothers me.
It's not like he's in a full push-up, and they don't have his arms.
And he's not fighting them when he's on the ground.
But they're making it seem like this man was a
hardened criminal.
Was like a car thief. He was
Like
a
a
mass
murderer,
murderer.
yeah.
Right.
That's the way they approached this. This guy was getting approached for selling cigarettes. I mean, they even have it on the tape that says he was like, who did I sell cigarettes to? They were like, there was a guy in a red shirt that you
just
sold.
pointed to somebody,
and I was
right?
like, well, if that was the case, if I was a drug dealer and I sold drugs to somebody, you're gonna stop that guy, and then you're gonna stop me. It's not like you're gonna let him go with the drugs and say that he's free. Why didn't you stop this guy and say, this is the cigarette you sold him? You gave him no evidence to the case, which just made him be a little bit resistant for him to say, put your hands behind my back. Why? Because we saw you do that. Well, where's that guy? Where's that cigarette that I sold to him?
To me, at the end of the day, there's like 3 issues. 1, him resisting. 2, excessive force. And then 3, which I don't have any clue of. Maybe you guys can help me. Where was EMS when this happened?
So there's 4 EMTs in the situation that I saw a little clip of a video. It looked like vitals were checked, and he was pushed or kind of, I don't want to say hit, but he was they checked him.
No, they put his head.
They were like, but he was unresponsive. So again, that was a little tough to kind of find the info on that, but I do know 4 EMTs were suspended without pay.
Right.
So maybe they could have saved them. Maybe I'm sure things will come out.
Well, I mean, if they're on site, you should be able to save them.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that I have. All trained forces they all learn how to do CPR. All of them. That's the first thing they learn how to do. So for that many cops to be on the scene and nobody wanted to resuscitate this guy, nobody even wanted to prop him up so that he can breathe properly.
Yeah,
that was an issue.
That bothers me too.
All right,
as an
because
asthmatic, that bothers me.
if you're sitting there
like
and if he's an asthmatic right off the top, you know that you're hearing breathing being restricted. You have to. All right. If he's on the floor and he's not breathing well, the first thing you do is you pick him up. You already have the cuffs on him, so why not pick his back up? Then when the EMTs came in, none of them put oxygen on this guy.
Yeah.
This guy just stood on the ground, and they're like, oh, you see a video where he says, oh, he's breathing. He wasn't breathing well. Even something like that, you put oxygen on a person's face. They didn't do anything. The only thing they did was get him out the seat. They picked him up. They had 6 people pick him up, put him onto the gurney, and they just carted him off. And that's all they did. There was nothing done for this guy. And people are sitting there saying that there was nothing they could have done. But, people at least try. And putting your fingers to this person's neck to check if he's still alive isn't trying.
Like whether he's a criminal or not, if someone is in need of medical assistance, you help them. It's not like he's going to run away.
When does police protocol end and human decency begin?
Well, the police protocol was there, but then
right.
it's where was also if EMS is on site, they have a job to do too, and I don't think their job was done.
But still, the police officers already had him cuffed. At that point, they should have tried to resuscitate him because he was not consciously speaking. I mean, I can watch that video 100 times. This man was not talking. His eyes weren't moving. There was nothing going on. And all these officers were just walking around him, and nobody wanted to do CPR.
A lot of people were there.
I think that's a very good point. It's where does police protocol and human decency, where's the overlap there? If they took him down. They took him down. He's a criminal or whatever. They had to take him down. They took him down. He said he couldn't breathe. If he said he couldn't breathe and he's not being choked, he can breathe or whatever. But it's a figure of speech. He's having a problem breathing. Where does protocol and human decency overlap? That's what has to happen in that situation. Very sensitive topic. I want to move on because we have some other stuff that I want to talk about. But
Still like you, Dan.
we're all still friends. We're all still friends here. We still love cops. We still love the police. We love you guys. But very sensitive issue. And I felt like it needed to be talked about. But we're gonna stay with the cops. The Brooklyn Bridge recently. I guess you would call it vandalism, and a lot of people aren't talking about it. But it's both flags, both of the American flags on the Brooklyn Bridge. If you can see the top image there, both of the flags were either taken down and replaced, or taken down, bleached, and replaced. Julie, why don't you talk about this? How did something like this happen?
Well, I mean, again, I did some research, and it said that there was a 13-minute gap. So someone took one of those like dollar store tin pan trays and covered the lights. Okay, that's a big concern, that someone can get on the top, cover it, be up there for 15 minutes, and then replace a flag. Because what if it wasn't just a flag? I mean, it could have been a number of things. And I've biked across that bridge before and walked across that bridge before. So that's a scary thing because you can put something there, set a timer, and when I'm walking across that bridge, there could be a big problem. So, I mean, the fact that it's videotaped 24 hours a day, there are constant tourists, that's a big tourist attraction. So being a New York City resident, that's a really scary thing. So there was a 13-minute gap between the tower lights going out and the white flags going up. So it said one of them, I guess, was just a regular white flag, and the other one looks like it had been a bleached white flag. I don't know if they had the time to do it up there or if they had prepared it and brought it.
13 minutes?
I don't know.
15 minutes?
should be on TV.
How long does it take to bleach something?
I don't know. I try not to use bleach because I ruin all my clothes. But yeah, I mean, so as far as I'm concerned, that's a very scary thing because they could do that to any of our bridges, and then what happens to Manhattan?
Yeah,
It's
right?
just scary.
Chris, what do you think, man?
It bothered me. I got very patriotic when I heard about this, and then it just went away. And I'm glad that you were going to bring it up because I was like, I need to look into this. So I found out actually that the cameras that are supposedly looking over this bridge are looking over other key points where they think there might be like where we could be bombed, so to speak. Those towers specifically are in areas where if a truck bomb, for example, went off, they're not areas where they would do serious damage to the bridge. Nevertheless, it's still, number one, embarrassing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number two, it's huge. I mean, I think it's embarrassing just to have that happen. Because if I'm not mistaken, there's a penalty or there's something like that happens when you burn the flag, right? This is
Right.
almost just as insulting to me.
Yeah.
And then number two, they said it's some skateboarders that supposedly did it.
Yeah, that's supposedly. That's
Right.
their lead,
Yeah.
but
And they supposedly know who it is, but what you said, I mean, I guess they had a 13-minute window.
They had a big amount of time that they were up there.
Yeah.
And
And
they
it was
also
planned.
said, they also said they had to specifically know how to jerry rig this type of flag. So now I heard they have over like 36 counter terrorist like investigators on it, and people they've taken elite people from homicide like investigations to find out who did it. So it's big. I think it's big and insulting, and I'm glad we're on it. But stuff like that can't
That's
happen.
great. Yeah, it's crazy. Dan,
embarrassing.
what's your take, man?
I think it just shows the level of security that we have on this bridge. I mean, this is one of the biggest landmarks in New York, one of the most historic landmarks that we have in New York, and the fact that people, or if they are kids, which that bothers me even more that they keep saying
they
that
can pull it
it was a
off,
bunch
yeah.
of kids that just skateboarders that. If there was a bunch of 15 to 17-year-olds to 18-year-olds climbing up the Brooklyn Bridge and able to orchestrate flags dropping and down without anybody seeing, I am scared. I don't care what anybody says. There's the I don't want to say the protocols again, but the way that they're doing it is completely wrong.
And everybody
'Cause
with camera phones,
with
not
everything.
one person sees it.
Not one person sees it.
You know what it is? Somebody I read something, or somebody was like, "We're just New Yorkers, just minding our own business."
But
you know,
But the one thing that bothered me
it was like 3 in the morning.
is that someone was like, "What if?" Like they interviewed one of the police officers and they were like, "What if he put a bomb up there? We're lucky it's just a flag." I mean, what if they put a bomb up there?
What?
Would we be sitting there saying it's a bunch of 13 to 19-year-olds? Like, or we would we be saying that? We
Yeah.
wouldn't be.
But I think that they could have said that to diminish the situation.
Yeah,
Because
but-
really they're like, holy cow, what could have actually happened? And I don't know how many 15 to 17-year-olds I know that would be able to climb a Brooklyn Bridge that live in the 5 boroughs.
That live in the
I
five
don't think so.
boroughs.
They know how to climb subway stairs. That's about it.
Craziness.
They made a
craziness.
statement though.
They did make a statement.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a, I thought it was, about the, Israel and the Gaza Bank. I thought that was going to be about it, but it wasn't. I don't know if it is about it. It might be, but the fact that happened in New York, which is supposed to be the most secure place in the United States, I mean, it just talks a lot about the security that we do have here.
It's crazy.
So
Hopefully they just make it better. Learn from this and make sure that all bridges are covered at all points. Even if it was 5 people going up to all jump off together, not one person saw it.
Not
That's
one person.
crazy.
Yeah, and it was two sides.
Two
too.
sides.
So it
Two
had to have been a whole
towers.
bunch of people.
2 towers. It's crazy. All right, well we have a few more minutes. It's the 45th anniversary of the moon landing. So 45 years
moment.
since USA went to the moon, and Neil Armstrong jumped out. Great step
Buzz
for
Aldrin.
man.
Buzz Aldrin.
One small
Dan-
step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
That's what I meant.
And the
got
biggest
you
leap.
back.
Dan, what's your
biggest leap for knees.
what's your take? What's your take?
My take, and I've caught a lot of flack about this my whole life. I don't believe it. I won't believe it. I don't believe we went to the moon. There's been too many theories to debunk it, and one being that,
Transformers.
well, the Transformers. There you go. There you go. No, but we've had a lot of missions to the moon before Apollo 11 went up there and supposedly landed. All of them failed. All right, Apollo 11 got up there and landed. After Apollo 11, we haven't had one successful mission to the moon. We've been able to take computers the size of rooms and shrink them down into a cell phone. But we're not able to advance the technology of the space shuttle launch. It just doesn't make any sense to me, you know? I mean, there's more than that. There's the film that went up there. Like a little thing with the film. It's 250 degrees on the moon. All of a sudden we have film that can sustain 250 degrees. Doesn't make any sense to me, you know? Like there's little things, but I mean, those are a couple of things I can say. I mean, I'm not gonna sit there and talk about it the whole time, but until somebody brings up real facts that make me believe that we went up there, and unless it wasn't like us trying to be better than the Russians because they sent Sputnik up there, then
well, that was the whole reason that we went to do it, was just to be the first to do it.
We wanted to be the best.
Or not to do it, as you believe.
What's your take, Julie?
I mean, I don't know. I was just always a believer. I'm a pretty gullible girl. I mean, I was doing some research again last night, and they said they brought back like 47 pounds of moon debris and the photo. I don't know. I mean, I never was
on the same sites.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. And then I found something kind of funny. I guess because it's the 45th year, the Farmer's Almanac names the full moon every month. And there was this website that wanted to name it like, what they want, Apollo Moon for this month of July. But I don't know if anybody fought for that.
Chris, what about you, man? What's your take, man?
Well, I didn't think about the Earth theory. I find that interesting.
There's more.
And I wouldn't completely dismiss it. But if it is true, I think it's a little blown up, you know. I think, number one, yes, it was a good accomplishment. But I mean, you know, okay. We're talking about now, like, you know, and I think it's just talk, but the White House is talking about getting people to an asteroid by what is it, by 2025.
I just saw Armageddon today.
Right, and then on Mars by 2030. Right. I think it's good for the country, but honestly, I didn't think it should be like a huge deal. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, celebrate the 50th anniversary of the computer next or something? I mean, it's all right. You know?
I think. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I feel like I want to say we went. You know, like I want to say we went.
So you're a possible non-believer.
But here's the thing, though. You know, we can take pictures of the moon. There should be like the bottom half of the I forget what they call it, but the bottom half of the shuttle or the landing module or whatever. And no one has any pictures.
Nobody.
Supposedly Japan has a telescope powerful enough. There's no pictures of anything up there. Can we show the picture one more time real quick? In this picture taken from the moon, see the bottom one? Look how perfectly framed that is. They're taking a picture from a chest cam.
Thank you.
That's like a perfectly framed picture. Maybe they got lucky there on the bottom, but you know, it's like the astronaut, the flag, then the landing module, then the truck over here.
I'm glad that you showed this one, because if you look in the middle, the one in the middle, the guy in the middle, all right? That's a picture of Buzz Aldrin, okay? Now, they're saying that Lance Armstrong's, his camera is on his chest, all right? So that means the horizon should be at least chest level. It shouldn't be going from a top view down. So how did that picture come up?
There's a lot of stuff.
Like, how was that picture there like that?
There's Buzz a lot of stuff.
I don't know.
We could talk about this all day, but we've run out of time. We got to go. Maybe we'll come back to this one in like 5 years or something. But you can check us out on Cablevision 76 and Verizon 45. Also WPCommunitymedia.org. Look for Talking Heads. Thanks so much, guys, for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you real soon.
Thank you.
All right.